What's up, nerds? It's your boy, the OG GM, and if you can't tell by that amazing soundtrack, it's time to take a look once again at our monthly Is This the Best D&D Movie Ever Made? We started this with Hawk the Slayer, which was a disaster. Then we went to looking at Gamers, and that was pretty much considered the best D&D movie about people playing D&D. But now we're getting to the best D&D movie ever made that doesn't have the word Dungeons and Dragons in it. And one of the most ones that got the most votes was this movie. Is Conan the Barbarian the greatest D&D movie ever made? It is a great movie. I don't think it gets as much credit as it should. Sure, the middle bogs down, but beginning, middle, and end, it tells an amazing story. As the perfect beginning, the perfect middle, the perfect end, the perfect soundtrack, the perfect person to play the character, and that ending. Oh my God, that ending is just so perfect. Yeah, it bogs down. It's a little too long, but I don't think any other barbarian film before or since has captured the feeling of this movie. Plus, come on, every time you hear that, you just feel your heart pumping. All right, so let's take a look at what we know about the greatest movie maybe ever made that is a D&D movie. I mean, is it a D&D movie? It doesn't have a dragon in it. It just has a really big snake. It doesn't have a dungeon in it. It just has a tower and a temple. It has Thulsa Doom, played by a youngish James Earl Jones, who is an amazing villain. Let's take a look. Conan the Barbarian is a 1982 American epic sword and sorcery film directed by John Mullis and written by Mullis and Oliver Stone. Based upon the writing of Robert E. Howard's Conan, the film stars Arnold Schwarzenegger and James Earl Jones and tells the story of a barbarian warrior named Conan who seeks vengeance for the death of his parents at the hands of Thulsa Doom, the leader of a snake cult. The idea for the film was proposed as early as 1970, but they didn't begin an effort to start filming it to 1975. And then it took 2 more years to get the rights, and then they had to recruit Schwarzenegger, who, remember, at the time had not been in America that long, and, you know, his English still wasn't that good. And they were betting a lot on a guy who was basically just a bodybuilder, but he had that look. And then, yeah, they had... You know, they took a script, they took stories, they took pictures of pieces of other movies like Seven Samurai. They took paintings and art and ideas based upon the work of Frank Frazetta. And then it went into final production and finally saw the light of day in March of 1982. And in North America in May of 1982. Wow. And it received mixed reviews. But still, people didn't like the violence. But then, since then, and of course, it made Schwarzenegger a household name. But it is a cult film. It has successful sequels and successful television shows, reboots and stuff like that. And I mean, come on, it's just such a good movie. In some ways, it is a perfect movie. Other than it's maybe too long. For those of you who don't know the story, a blacksmith forges a sword and shows it to his son as he tells him the riddle of steel. An analogy for the importance of the metal to his people, the Cimmerians. One day, a band of raiders led by Thulsa Doom massacre the Cimmerian. Dogs kill Conan's father, and Doom takes the sword and decapitates Conan's mother. The children are taken into slavery and chained to work at a large mill, the Wheel of Pain. Conan survives into adulthood, becoming a massive muscular man. His master trains him to be a gladiator. After winning countless fights and receiving training and education in the East, Conan is freed. He is soon chased by wild dogs and seeks refuge in an Atlantean colonist warrior's tomb, where he retrieves an ancient sword. Conan wanders the world, encountering a prophetic witch in a hut, and then befriends Subutai, my favorite character, a Harkanian thief and archer. Following the witch's advice, Conan and Subutai go to the city of Zamor to seek out Doom. There they meet Valeria, a female brigand. They raid the Tower of the Serpent, there's your dungeon, stealing jewels and other valuables, including the greatest jewel of all, the Eye of the Serpent, from a shrine, and slaying a giant snake, there's your dragon, in the process. After escaping with their loot, the thieves celebrate and Conan has sex with Valeria. The city guard captures the trio. Here's the scene where you can just see how bored they've gotten. It's like, yeah, we've gotten all this money and all these gems and we have nothing to do. And they bring him to King Ogris, who requests they rescue his daughter, Princess Yasmin, now a zealot in Doom's cult, for a handsome reward. Subutai and Valeria refuse to take up the quest. Conan, however motivated by his hatred for Doom and his desire for vengeance, sets off alone to the villain's Temple of Set, also known as the Mountain of Power. Theme song break. Disguised as a priest, Conan infiltrates the temple, but he is discovered, captured, and tortured by Doom. Take a drink whenever I say Doom, who lectures him on the power of the flesh, which he demonstrates by hypnotically enticing a girl to leap to her death. He then orders for Conan to be crucified on the Tree of Woe. The barbarian on the verge of death is when he's discovered by Subutai and brought to Echo, the Wizard of the Mounds, who lives on a burial site for warriors and kings, and who narrates the movie as Conan's chronicle. Come with me back to an ancient time, before the rise of the sons of Aquitar. His voice, Macau's voice in that. The wizard summons spirits to heal Conan's and warns them that they will pay an exact toll, which Valeria is willing to pay. These spirits also try to abduct Conan, but he is restored to health after Valeria and Subutai fend them off. Subutai and Valeria agree to help Conan complete Osric's quest and infiltrate the Temple of Set. As the cult indulges a cannibalistic orgy, the thieves attack and flee with the princess. But Conan is unable to engage Doom, who is magically transformed into a large snake, and slithers away. Valeria is mortally wounded by Doom, and he shoots a stiffened snake as an arrow to her. That's another great scene, when he takes the snake and turns it into an arrow. She dies in Conan's arm, acknowledging the price of the toll forewarned by the wizard in exchange for Conan's life, and is cremated at the mounds, where Conan prepares with Subutai and the wizard to battle Doom. Take a drink. Conan asks Crom, the god of his people, to grant him revenge. And if you don't listen to me, then the hell with you. By using booby traps and exploiting the terrain, they manage to slay Doom's warrior. When they arrive, just when Doom's lieutenant, Rexar, is about to overcome Conan, Valerie reappears for a brief moment as a Valkyrie to save him from a mortal blow. After losing his men, Doom shoots a stiffened snake arrow at the princess, but Subutai blocks the shot with his shield, and the villain flees to his temple. The battle ends with Conan having recovered his father's sword from his enemies, a sword splintered by his own hand in battle, thus signifying the symbology of the son outliving the father and the son's might being greater than the father. Conan and the princess, who is no longer under Doom's spell and wants revenge, sneak back into the temple where Doom is addressing the members of the cult. Conan confronts Doom, who receives him with open arms and attempts to memorize him, but the barbarian resists, and using his father-broken sword, he beheads his nemesis. After the delusion cultists disperse, Conan burns down the temple and returns the princess to King Osric. The epilogue alludes to Conan's further exploits and shows an older Conan wearing a crown and sitting on the throne, but looking with his troubled brow. Where narration stating that in a time he became a king of his own hand and wore a crown on a troubled brow. I love this movie. I mean, is it the perfect D&D movie? I don't know, but I love this movie. I think we can tell I love that movie, especially the ending. You know, the look on Conan's face of just like, well, now what? I've accomplished my life goal. What do I do? Just the, you know, that, and the scene where he's just sitting there and they're just so bored and they realize that there's nothing to life if they're not out adventuring. These are two perfect scenes. So, yeah. Is this the best D&D movie ever made? Maybe, maybe not. It's a great movie. It's spawned sequels. It's spawned a TV show. I mean, how often do we quote this movie? Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies. See them driven before you. and hear the lamentation of the women. Yeah. So if you want any more information on this, that it's on the Wikipedia. The legacy and impact of this show is amazing. It has definitely seeded so many other movies. And look how many other films were made in the 80s to fill the same hole, probably not the word, fill the same area, genre that this film will. But, Atar the Hunter and Crag the Barbarian and the Sword of Lothar. None of them come close. It's the movie, it's the acting, it's the scenery, it's the pacing, it's the filming. I mean, just everything about this film really wasn't ever duplicated. Even attempts to remake it, and sequels and the TV show, which had T.G. Storm in it. Nothing really captures this movie. Maybe just because it was the perfect time, the perfect location. I mean, now when you watch it, you're like, the beginning's okay. There's scenes in the middle that are awesome and scenes in the middle that are boring. The ending is kind of long and sort of, it's got a lot of analogies and stuff like that and references to mythology, and it's big and deep and makes you think. But then, it closes with that epic narration by Macau. In the end, he carved out a kingdom by his horn and wore a crown on a troubled brow. But this is a story for another time. Theme song break. So yeah, there you go. I said we would do this once a month. Go through the list of best D&D movies that don't have the name Dungeons or Dragons in them. What do you think? Where's Conan on your list? Do you love it as much as I do? Do you don't love it as much as I do? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What do you think? Let me know. Thanks for taking part in this experiment. We'll continue it if you want. And if you never want to hear me talk about D&D movies ever again, let me know. Remember, take a drink every time you hear me say Thulsa Doom. What is the riddle of steel? Who was right about the Wizard of Steel? And of course, the answer is the riddle of steel is it's not the steel. It's the strength of the hand that wields the steel. Right? There you go. See ya.